Good evening, Malaysia, and welcome back to another Q&A session organized by The Star. I'm your host, Joshua Lim, and today we'll be talking about the COVID-19 vaccines and what you should know if you have a history of allergies. Our special guest today is Dr. Amir Hamzah, who is an immunologist slash allergist at Pantai Hospital, Kuala Lumpur. He's also a clinical adjunct professor for University Putra Malaysia and the immediate past president of the Malaysian Society of Allergy and Immunology. Welcome to the show, Dr. Amir.
Hello, good evening, Joshua.
Hi
Salam
there.
sejahtera. Assalamualaikum, Malaysia. It's great to be here.
Yes, and I'm very glad that you are joining us today to provide some perspective and understanding on this issue on allergies and the COVID-19 vaccines. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it with the most obvious question. Can I take the COVID-19 vaccine if I have a history of allergies?
Yes, I would say the very simple answer to start off with is yes. But I suppose there's always a but somewhere. You have to know the history, what kind of allergies you have. Now, if you have, in particular, what I would be concerned straight away, if you have a drug allergy or a vaccine allergy. And I suppose should be talking about it in the form of anaphylaxis, which is a severe, life-threatening allergic reaction. Now, I think just to put everyone on the same platform and perspective, let me quickly say an allergy is a hypersensitivity reaction via the immune system, right? It's mediated through the immune system. And it could be what we call an immediate type or a non-immediate type. So I don't want to get into the technicalities, but it is all through the immune system. So if you have an anaphylaxis, a severe life-threatening allergic reaction previously to drugs, in particular drugs which are injectable, that means intramuscular, intravenous, subcutaneous, and also suppository drugs. And of course, you have reactions to previous vaccines. And you know, there's a lot of vaccines around other than the COVID-19 vaccines, your influenza vaccines, your pneumococcal vaccines, your meningococcal vaccines, and so on and so forth, right? So if you had any reactions to that, then obviously you would need an assessment prior to getting any form of COVID-19 vaccine in the first instance. So other than this, once we have established you don't have any problems towards the drug anaphylaxis or drug allergy, then other sort of allergens such as food, latex, insect sting, inhalants, usually we would say that, and I think for simplicity, I'm going to say that if you don't have anaphylaxis to these allergens, then you would be okay. Yes, you can take the COVID-19 vaccine. And you would want to do that with an observation. And I think if you all are familiar and looking into what we call the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, the vaccine covid.com.my, all the information is there. You would know that those who are supposed to get the vaccines would have a 30-minute observation. So at least you must have a 15 minutes to 30 minutes observation, depending whether you are in the lower, medium, or higher risk groups with allergies. So if I were to say overall, I would say that as long as we have already determined that you are not in the higher risk, you should be able to take the vaccines. And I would probably just go that through in a simple slide that I've prepared for the audience.
Sure, let me pull out your slides that you prepared today.
Right, thank you very much, Joshua. So COVID-19 vaccines and allergy. So the allergy we're talking about, you could have, other than the drug and vaccine allergies that I mentioned, you could have allergic rhinitis, you have allergic asthma, atopic eczema, or urticaria. So all those would be under the allergies, allergic diseases. And I think straight to the vaccines themselves. Now, all these informations are all available on the website, right? And this obviously came from the flyer, the booklet of the NCIP, or the National COVID-19 Immunization Program. And you can see that there are many types, okay, of vaccines that has been acquired by Malaysia. And I think this is where the concern and also maybe misinformation and confusion, the hesitancy. And let's just say straight away, right? So all these vaccines, right? There are three main vaccines here. And these are your mRNA vaccine, which is your Pfizer, right? And we have the inactivated virus that was just recently rolled out. And that's your Sinovac. And to be coming soon, I think you hear from the news that the AstraZeneca vaccine also should be coming to our shores. So all these do not have any live vaccines, live virus, sorry. Okay, so that's the first thing, right? So when you don't have a live virus inside it, it's going to be, I wouldn't want to say automatically, but certainly I would say they're all safe, right? They're all safe for all groups of diseases to start off with. It's just now the big group is now whether you are immunocompetent, that means your immune system is working well, or your immune system is compromised. That means your those with, say, autoimmune diseases or cancer who are on treatment with various medications, and hence you can have secondary immunodeficiencies. And of course, you have the group of primary immunodeficiencies as well, or nowadays we call it the inborn error of immunity. So, but what is it that in terms of the vaccines in relation to the allergy or the anaphylaxis? And I think one would know that there's been quite a lot of concerns about allergy, even anaphylaxis to the mRNA vaccines. And it is due to the excipient, that means the non-active ingredient. So all these vaccines will have the active ingredient, which will be your mRNA, right? So it's a small little protein encoded by the mRNA for the spike protein. You have the inactivated virus. So obviously, as the name suggests, there is the actual SARS-CoV-2 virus that's been inactivated, and a viral vector. I'll just say that if people are familiar with the Trojan horse, then it is carrying or is the COVID-19 virus is carried by the another virus, which is also not alive, and in this case would be your adenovirus. Now, if you look into the excipient, now this here, first of all, the excipients of the Sinovac, right? So this does not have the main excipient, which I will now show for your mRNA. Okay, and this is here in bold, your polyethylene glycol. So your polyethylene glycol is a type of macrogol. So I'm not going to go into all the chemistry and everything else, but for one of time. But this is the technology that is within the lipid nanoparticle. Now, again, there's always this concern about lipid nanoparticle, and people start saying, oh, there's the microchip that's going inside there and tagging along. No, 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 please, right? As simple as that. There's no chips anywhere, right? And why do we have to put this? Because if you just inject the mRNA straight into the human body, by just simple natural process, it's going to be taken out of the body system pretty fast. So it's of no use. It won't create any immunity that we want. And we talk a lot about the herd immunity, that we want to achieve, 70 to 80%. So that by having this group of population being immunized, then you will protect all the rest, 100%. Okay. So God willing, that would be the target. And if you have this polyethylene glycol, it protects the mRNA. So as it goes into the body, into the cell. Now it goes into the cytoplasm of the cell. It does not go into the nucleus. So that's another myth. People saying that it will go into the DNA, right? And then next thing you know, we'll be, I don't want to say it, but it's not true. Whatever it is, you think that it's going to cause mutation with our DNA, that's all a myth. So this mRNA, which has the polyethylene glycol, or which I'm just going to say PEG, is what has been thought to be what patients or individuals who have had the Pfizer. Now, we don't have the Moderna. That's the only other COVID-19 vaccine that has the PEG. It's only the mRNA, okay? Not in other types, not in the other two types. So, but if you look by the side here, when they did their clinical trials, no one had any anaphylaxis. So as they rolled it out, they were, I suppose, going to be surprised by the number of anaphylaxis that occurred. And for Pfizer, at one point, I think this the numbers I checked back in January, and it occurred in about 1 in every 200,000 doses. So so there probably would be need for some concern. And if you look at those numbers, and we have 32 million, obviously it's not 32 million that we are looking at. We are looking at about 24 million. And I think last count I checked, we have about over 6 million already registered on My Sejahtera. We can do better, folks. And we are going to say that we would probably encounter a few cases of anaphylaxis. Now, anaphylaxis, of course, is also mild, moderate, and severe. So if it is severe, then we talk about what we call anaphylactic shock. So just give me 1 minute. Just let me say about anaphylaxis. It usually means that two body systems of your, for example, most of the time, 80% you get hives, you get rashes, urticaria, and you will get another system involved. For example, you have difficulty in breathing, or that's mean the respiratory system. You will get involvement of the gastrointestinal system, and then you might get really bad abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea, and then of course you can get also problems with the cardiovascular, and then you can go into shock. And sometimes you don't even get your hives. That's the thing, right? You just don't have the hives, and you just have a little bit difficulty in breathing, or maybe even a fainting spell, and you think that it's not going to be anaphylaxis, no hives. But in up to 10 to 20%, the anaphylaxis starts off not having any hives. So do not assume that someone is not in anaphylaxis just because they don't have hives after about 5 minutes exposed to a known allergen. And in this case, I suppose we'll have to talk about it as the COVID-19 vaccine. So that's your anaphylaxis, right? Now, what about the other vaccines? Now, what's need to be said here? Now, these are the viral vectors that we have acquired, and the AstraZeneca that I mentioned earlier, and the Sputnik 5, or is it Sputnik V? All right. They have the derivative of the PEG, the polyethylene glycol. The derivative of that is your polysorbate AT. Now, if you go into the previous, the first slide I showed, the Sinovac, it did not show any of the PEG or polysorbate, right? So, hence, the Sinovac is the main one that does not have an ingredient that one could potentially be allergic to at this point of time. So the PEG, and we sort of extend it to the polysorbate as well. This is where what I said right from the beginning, if you have vaccine allergies, reactions in the past, and what are the other vaccines? You know, I mentioned the influenza, the pneumococcal, the DTaP, meningococcal, your human papillomavirus, all this also has your polysorbate AT. So if you did not have any reactions to those vaccines, you're probably going to be okay receiving these vaccines, that the viral vector or the Sinovac. Okay, so so that's the very complex, the PEG.
Yes.
Again, no chemistry here, but it is also related to the fact that it is a high molecular weight. It is of 2,000 Daltons. The one that you find, many might know amongst the doctors that your laxatives, right? Or when you see a gastroenterologist and they need you to prepare your bowel, right? So they give you your bowel preps. So that will contain PEG, right? But that PEG will be of a low molecular weight. The one that's in the vaccine is a high molecular weight of 2000 Daltons. So there is a difference. So just because you have no problems with those sort of laxatives, you probably think that I'll be fine with the vaccine. No, we still have to look at your drug allergy and vaccine allergy history. So this is what I was saying earlier on, right? So the lower risk, medium risk, and higher risk. So stop, look, go, right? Stop if you are in
Okay,
the higher risk,
so
and
before
that's
that,
how
Dr.
it.
Amir, yeah,
Yeah,
before that, Dr. Amir, I just want to thank you that you that you took the time to really just try to make us understand all these complex and deeper details
sure.
when it comes to the vaccines and different type of vaccines that Malaysia will be acquiring. And I can even see that the comment section has a lot of like questions on or questions and inquiries, because they some are saying I have I have allergies to some kind of drugs, medication. I have some food allergies, and where does that all fall when it comes to taking the COVID-19 vaccine? So I think I want to say to the viewers right now as well, for those who are watching, I think you should pay attention to this part in particular, because I think this is where the bulk of your answers would be. Is that right, Dr. Amir?
Yes, yes. This slide is a little bit busy, and I can break it down later. But let's look at this slide quickly, all right? As you said and rightly, and I stated here, if you had already, maybe I'll just go on straight to this screening questions. Okay, this is what I wrote to the newspaper. If you have a history of severe allergic reaction, that means anaphylaxis to an injectable drug, I mentioned this, suppository or to vaccine, then you go into the higher risk group. Then obviously we'll want to determine if you have those drugs or the vaccine containing PEG. But of course, PEG, like I said, is only your mRNA vaccine. Now with the polysorbate, now that obviously if I go into not the next slide, but the one after, there's a long list of drugs that will contain polysorbate, right? But I can say that about 70% of them are those monoclonal antibodies, which usually are taken by those patients who have, say, cancer or autoimmune diseases. So if I just say, all right, if you have a drug allergy, anaphylaxis, you're in the higher risk group, and you should be assessed further by an allergist to see where you fall into, whether you are still in the higher risk or you go into the medium risk. So these are all the list of vaccines that containing polysorbate PEG. Now I know it's very busy, but the PEG is just the last two, which is your Pfizer and Moderna. We don't have the Moderna, and it's just the Pfizer coming here. But you can see here the polysorbate 80. You see the influenza, all those things that I mentioned, the hepatitis B, they all have polysorbate. So if you have had problems with these vaccines, you are going to be still in the higher risk. But however, if you find that the vaccines are okay, or you find that the drugs does not contain PEG, like some injectable steroids, and here are all the injectable drugs. I know it's very busy. Don't worry about it. I'll soon have all this on various websites so that the public and everybody else can have a look, right? And hence, if you don't have, so here's the medium risk, okay? If you do not have any problems to any previous vaccine that contains PEG polysorbate, right? The injectable drugs, then you should be fine to get the vaccine. And if you have anaphylaxis to food, I mentioned here, sorry, the drugs, the non-injectable type, that means your oral drugs. So this could be antibiotics, your painkillers, the venom, latex, and if you cannot find the trigger or the allergen, you can have the vaccination with a 30-minute observation. Okay, now, of course, I have to say this is looking at it from my perspective as an allergist. So we'll discuss later towards the end how is it going to be for the general, for all doctors to handle this. And if you're anything and everything else, that means you have just history of allergic reactions, not anaphylaxis, to foods, non-injectable drugs, venom, latex, right? Mast cell activation, chronic spontaneous urticaria, your allergic asthma, allergic rhinitis, whether you're on allergy immunotherapy, you're in the lower risk, you can have the routine vaccination with a 15-minute observation. Now, all the studies have seen that any reaction is going to happen is in the first 15 to 30 minutes. And that's why in our protocol, we say 30 minutes, all right? The 15 minutes, let's just say that if you are in the lower risk, okay? So if you are not having a drug allergy, injectable, right, and not towards PEG or polysorbate, then you are in the medium risk group at least, and you can get the vaccine. So that's what I would say to the potential questions, but I will, we'll go through that in a while. These are just what I would do next, basically, just to show that there's a lot of other things, the next steps, and I'm trying to get a basophil activation test, a blood test that will be safer to do than a skin prick test and intradermal test, because there has been cases of anaphylaxis on doing skin prick test towards the PEG. So if we can find an alternative by doing a blood test, that would be much, much better and safer. So this is if you have had a problem after the first dose of mRNA COVID-19 vaccine. So it's not as if automatically, but like I said, this is coming from my perspective, okay? Because if you look at this, and this I think is my the last slide I have, but it is the information that's out there now. I hope the public have seen this circulating around. Vaccination, what you need to know. So we all know that all above 18 years old are eligible, right? And those high-risk groups eligible for the vaccination, they're all stated here, all right? So, and also safe and recommended. So that includes those who are also pregnant and lactating, and those who have had a vaccine, but we would want to do a previous vaccine. Let's say you had a flu vaccine, so you would wait at least a couple of weeks before getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Same thing, you had a acute viral illness, right? And I mentioned already about all the other allergies, the HIVs who are stable. And there's the other thing as well. Some questions might come up, whereby if you have already had COVID-19 infection, right, it is at this point of time strongly recommended that you get the COVID-19 vaccine 3 to 6 months after you have recovered. Okay, and here are all the contraindications, in particular what I've already mentioned about the anaphylaxis. And if you're not sure, right, always consult your doctor before you well, you should and you must be confident, obviously, receiving the vaccines. And for the majority, it shouldn't be a problem. But if there are any issues to be asked, please do ask your doctors about it. Okay, so that's what I have prepared. And just quickly, before we go into the questions, this is where I could be contacted via email, right? Dr. Amir at RZBP, which is Razors Bioscience Partners, right? RZ or RZBP, if you want to go American way, .my. Okay, so that's what I have for the slides, and I thank the audience for their attention.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. And once again, Dr. Amir Hamzah is an immunologist/allergist at Pantai Hospital, Kuala Lumpur. He's also a clinical adjunct professor for University Putra Malaysia and the immediate past president of the Malaysian Society of Allergy and Immunology. In case anyone is wondering about his credentials, if you all came late during the live stream here. Dr. Amir, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because based on what you say, I think what you say is those who, when it comes to people with allergies, and when it comes to assessing whether they should take the vaccine or not, what I'm kind of understanding from you is that the first thing you need to identify is whether you have an allergic reaction towards the substance PEG and polysorbate. Is that do I understand that correctly?
Yes, that's very true. And this will be in your drugs and vaccines, right? So the injectable drugs, basically. So if it is oral drugs, it's not likely to have all those excipients, right? But I think those are the simple two questions. If you have anaphylaxis in particular, right? So I already defined anaphylaxis when two systems of your body are involved at the same time. Then you have a severe and potentially life-threatening allergic reaction. Then if it's against the drugs and the injectable drug, subcutaneous, that means you give it below the skin, or intravenous, intramuscular, or even suppository drugs, and also vaccines, then you should now um, check and ask and inquire further about where do I go from here, right? So that's the message that I've put across to the everybody really, from the patients, the individual, to all my fellow colleagues, all the frontliners. So these are the information. It's a simple screening question first. So that you're right. That's what you would want to start off by asking yourself if you have a background allergy condition.
Right, and then based on your slides, I think the lowest group, although we want to always be careful, but what I understand is that the lowest group in terms of risk are those that have allergies, but they're not related so much towards anaphylaxis. That means they do not have anaphylaxis reactions, anaphylactic reactions, and this may be maybe like some common food allergies. Even medication as well, as long as it does not necessarily relate to PEG and polysorbate and does not result in a severe reaction. That's kind of like where the bar is for the lowest groups who are considering for
So if I wanted to
vaccines.
make it simpler, so I would just probably just say, as you rightly pointed out, we can dichotomize and put into two groups already, because at the end of the day as well, since we are doing 30-minute observation for now at least in the observation, so we can just put everybody together, right? So once you know that you don't have a reaction to the PEG polysorbate, then you are in the non-risk group. Well, maybe I wouldn't want to say that, but you would be
A low
you're
risk group.
outside a lower risk, right? So you're not in
Yeah.
the red group. You're in any other colors that you want to think about. Okay, I suppose that would be easy. But the minute you have that, please then approach your the doctors to further assess.
And I think, and what you're saying, and based on your slides just now as well, it's not that people with allergic reactions towards PEG and polysorbate are excluded from taking the vaccines. It's just that they would need to take, if they really want to, is what I'm trying to understand here. They would actually just have to, they would need to take extra steps, and they would need to have extra monitoring.
Yes, correct. Now, so what I had already here, I mean, like I said, the numbers, right? So if we talk about, let's say, the 1 in 200,000, right? And so far from the numbers that we know, at least from what I know, reading up on the those, when you look into the booklet of the NCIP, they have shown that Pfizer takes up about 50%, right, of the whole volume. The way they've acquired it is 109%, which is fantastic, right? And but 50% are coming from the Pfizer. So if there's a 101 in 200,000 doses and you're targeting about 24 million, where somebody can please do the max for me, maybe Joshua you can do, and let's see and expect, right? How many we would expect anaphylaxis, right? But we hope that we can capture all those patients by doing these simple screening questions. And if they need to be assessed, then I'm hoping in the pipeline that I've already planned and put up as an idea for, well, I suppose a research proposal, or it could be diagnostic later on, what we call a cellular allergy diagnostic called the basophil activation test. So I'm in discussions with all the relevant people, and I hope that we can get it rolling at least before phase 2 starts.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think one of the more important questions when it comes to vaccines and for people with allergies, is it worth it though to get the vaccine in that case?
Well,
Is it still
if
worth
you
it?
have if you have allergies that you are now eligible and safe to take, okay, so I'm going to go on that premises now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it will be, right? Because I've already mentioned that we are looking for herd immunity, right? So the more people who are vaccinated, and if I look at the prevalence of some form of allergy in Malaysia, we still need some updated data on that. The last sort of data will probably be more than 10 years old now. But let's say across the board, we are talking about anywhere 8 to 15% of the population, right? Of course, many would be children. So not many will be adults above 18, right? But what I'm trying to say that as long as you're eligible, you're safe to get it based on what I have mentioned. No hesitation about taking the vaccine because it's safe, right? The technology has been around, even the mRNA. It's not yesterday's technology. It's 20, 30 years ago now. And a lot of it has been done within cancer vaccines all this time, right? And even the viral vector is also another technology that has been there, right? For your Ebola virus, your Zika virus, that's the technology. So it's all there, it's all being used. And of course, we have the inactivated vaccine. So all allergy patients who are eligible, who are safe to take in the sense that we have already said that, okay, you are good to go, please do get it, right? Because you are going to get protected. Everybody is going to get protected. That's the hashtag, right? Lindung diri, lindung semua. So it's not just just for fun saying that, right? This is serious business. So please, those who are eligible, please get yourself registered. Please get the vaccine. You're going to help the nation, right? This is almost like a plea to you all because I think it's the right thing to do. There should not be any hesitation, but you must have all the information, the right information, the knowledge about it. I totally agree. That's why questions must be asked. We want them asked, right? Because if you don't ask, you are going to be hesitant. But when you're hesitant and you ask, please ask and get from the right places and the right sources as well. Okay, so then we are willing to talk one to one. That's not an issue, right? So just be just go with the fact that you have all the right information, you are confident 100%. Yes, it's your decision, right? But for the nation, let's do it.
Thank you, Dr. Amir. And I like the part where you talk about ask and then let's try to get answers. You're actually kind of like inviting the audience to ask, and the audience in kind have provided some questions and things that we might have already covered just now. But for the people who are just joining this stream, let's go through them and let's get that information. Let's provide that information. But I do want to say before we go forward that COVID-19, whether it comes to the vaccines, whether it comes to disease, is still an evolving situation. New data, we're receiving new data every day. We're learning new things about it and the vaccines as well. So what we want to do here is to help inform people the best that we can. Right, Dr. Amir, we're not here to attack your beliefs. We're not here to try to give you we're not trying to be too confident with everything as well, because science is also about being humble enough to say that we do not know everything, but this is the best of our capabilities in terms of knowledge that we want to pass on to people, so we're all equally informed in this so that we can make the right decision when it's our time to decide whether we want to take the vaccine or not. With that said, with that disclaimer given, let's go to some of the questions that's been provided by the viewers. Good evening, doctor. I have always been reminded that by my mother that I am allergic to aspirin. I understand that Pfizer's vaccine contains aspirin, but I'm unsure of the aspirin content in other vaccines available like Sinovac. Appreciate if you could provide clarity in my concerns on my allergy to aspirin and my choices of vaccine that would be safe for me? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I think if you look at, I just want to make it simple, right? So the main question is, and the main knowledge that we have at this point of time is that the Pfizer anaphylaxis is occurring towards the polyethylene glycol, or PEG, right? It's not been stated for any other of the ingredients so far. And certainly during the trials, in fact, you might have observed in the column, I actually put the column there. There were no anaphylaxis. And in fact, I mentioned it. There's no anaphylaxis during the clinical trial. So obviously, with that knowledge, one is going to be confident to roll out the vaccine. So if you have aspirin, and most aspirin are going to be oral, okay? So we talk about the aspirin allergy per se, right? And if it is an oral form and you don't have an anaphylaxis to that, then you should be okay, all right, to use any vaccines at the end of the day, right? So that is how I would approach it. Because yes, we will have all those information, relevant information put up in all various websites to put down the all the ingredients that are in the vaccines, right? They have to. Now, this is very important. If you want to, like in US, when they gave the EUA, emergency under authorization, and by the FDA, they look at every single thing. They're even more rigid, right? More and more and more rigid than any data that's published in the peer-reviewed journals. So they will ask every single bit straight to the manufacturer. So it's even more, a lot of quality control checks and everything else. So if they are going to give that, and here likewise, our National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Authority, NPRNA, has given the conditional approval, which is the equivalent of the EUA and the FDA. So we are all doing the right thing here. So that has been given for the Pfizer, has been given for the AstraZeneca, and has been given for the Sinovac.
Okay, next from Alicia. I did have an anaphylactic shock due to shellfish allergies before. Is this okay to take the vaccine?
Okay, because I'm answering it, right? And from what I've already mentioned, right? So when you talk about food anaphylaxis, right, it's not drugs. So shellfish is allergies. You can have anaphylactic, even all the way to anaphylactic shock. Yes, correct. But you are in the medium breeze from the simple slides that I've shown. But remember, I sort of now dichotomize things, make easier to that it be in line with what has been circulated. So if you have anaphylaxis to any forms of allergens, so I would say that you're going to having further assessment. So I'm not saying that you cannot take the vaccine. So you should get further assessment, yeah, by the allergies, rightly. So this is just for simplicity now, right? Because I do not want it to be too confusing. At the end of this session, people must be as clear, as confident as they can be. That's my hope. And if it's not, we can continue the conversation after this. That's not a problem. Okay? So if you have anaphylaxis to any allergens now, okay, you need to be assessed. But it does not mean you cannot take any vaccine, COVID-19 vaccine. So that's how I would put it for the audience.
Barely has quite a number of layers to this question right here. Maybe I'll go down from line 3. For the vaccination program, will they liaise with our existing doctors and consolidate date before doing the vaccination? Will they be fully equipped to revive in the event of anaphylactic shock? So I guess the first question is more like, where does the response, how, in a sense as well, do I have to already be there and present my entire history or would they be aware of it before we take the vaccine?
Now that's a good question, because I have already sort of indicated that I think from what I see when I registered with MySejahtera, and incidentally, I had my first shot on the Pfizer on the 10th of March, right? And I'm due to get my second dose next Wednesday. So I looked at that and I thought that it could be better. I'll be honest about it, and to the allergies, but I'm sure they will pick it up from here, and they should really already put it in the MySejahtera, all these things that I've already mentioned for the once we roll out into phase 2, right? So because when you think about it, so if you have the comorbid conditions, and I would say the allergy would be a comorbid condition, you should be in phase 2. So, but before you do that, I would like to see all those questions being asked in the MySejahtera. Now, if you have already registered, right, I hope that they will update it and they will give the notification. The next step, say, now we have this sort of questions. Can you please answer them? Right? So there'll be a simple way of doing that, right? I'm not the IT person here, right? But I will tell them what we'll do. We need to know. So when it's all done, then we will just be refer to allergies, refer for further assessment. Safe to have vaccine. Nice and simple. That's how it should be. I would prefer it to be done that way before they see. Sometimes, we talk about technology and you don't have all those things, especially in the older generations as well. So who's going to be helping them? Where are they going to be? How are they going to be helped? So there's a lot of things that we go through, and I'm sure that it's all been thought of, troubleshoot, and so that everybody knows and about this information, get themselves assessed properly. I mean, through the screening. And if they need further assessment, they'll know they'll need further assessment. So, while as I say it's in MySejahtera, it should be in a lot of other places as well, right? The PKDs and everybody else, all the PKKs and everywhere. Certainly, that so-called all the 600 vaccine centers, they should be having all that information before the person comes to the vaccine center, right? If they come, that means you are safe and you're ready to get it. Right, so that be it. And the bit about for resuscitation, it has to be ready for any resuscitation for anaphylaxis. It must be there. Everybody, all centers, every places must be fully equipped to handle anaphylaxis. And it's pretty simple what is needed. Adrenaline. The treatment of choice for anaphylaxis is an intramuscular adrenaline. Now, that should be easily available in all centers, wherever that's going to give the vaccine. They must be having that, plus, of course, the full resuscitation trolley, as we call it, right? All the resuscitation for everything else. But first and foremost, the adrenaline must be there. You have to make sure adrenaline is there. I look again, is adrenaline there? Not there. Oh, have it there. I look again and again and again. If I don't see adrenaline, I'm not going to get the vaccine. I don't want the vaccine. That's how well prepared we must be for this situation.
But at present, those facilities are in our hospitals, and we are, and that is present over there. So my question is, because if that's happening within the 30-minute observation period, then yes, there are people that can attend to you during that time. But what should I do if there's an allergic reaction that happens beyond the 30-minute period? Because of any unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah. So this is where that history is important to screen, because we want to avoid that. We want to be more sure, right? So that's my point, you see. So we want to be more sure. You're not going to be. And I did mention that all the observation, all the cases that were showing the anaphylaxis were happening within the first 15 to 30 minutes. So that's why that 30-minute observation is there, right? It is less likely. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen, right? Never say never. So But if it was going to happen, it will be happening, God forbid, in the first 30 minutes. So if now, let's say if it occurs, because I do say, right, to all my patients, an allergy, an IgE mediated, is an immediate type. It will occur within minutes. That's your 15 to 30 minutes. But sometimes it can drag on to 2 hours. So that's true. Okay. But at this point of time, based on the information that we have, at least for the Pfizer, right? And so far, I don't think that we are having problems really with the polysorbate ones. Okay, there are other issues that seems to be coming up with the polysorbate vaccines. I'm not sure whether I want to discuss this because it will take a bit more time. You see, it's not really that allergy scenario, but it's just as important to know everything that's going around. So that's what I'm saying. You need to know. You have the right to ask. You have the right to how you feel, right? So keep on asking, keep on inquiring until you are 100% confident, because it's going to be your choice. So so that would be what I would say. If you're an allergic person anyway, so you know you will have all the other antihistamines, your inhalers, right? And you might even have that food anaphylaxis, and you have an self-injectable adrenaline as well. So obviously, those who have been assessed and who has been found to have in the higher risk, obviously these are the ones that really need to be monitored probably longer now than the 30 minutes, and after signed consent, right? They agree. Otherwise, let's look at what are the other alternatives, other vaccines that they are eligible.
Mhm. Now, some people could go on in their lives and not be aware of what kind of so-called substances they're allergic to. Uh, what should I do then if I do not know if I am actually allergic to this type of substances?
Okay, I think that's pretty hard question to answer, to be honest, really. I mean, how would one know anyway? And when I look at that and we talk about high risk groups in my daily practice, we look by identifying the family history, right? So if your parents or your siblings have allergies, but you never had any, you are at the theoretical risk of having an allergy. So if you don't have a family history, so it's less likely. I'm not going to say 100%. I would say probably 85, 90%, right? But you still can have, let's say your parents or siblings don't have it, you can still have about 15%. Now, this, however, is for those who have what we call atopic conditions. And that means your parents or siblings has allergy to food, to your inhalants, your dust mites, your pet danders, and your insect sting, right? Plus minus. But if it is for drugs, so that's why the one of the questions from before, when they did the IgE against drugs, right? Even for the food, the IgE test, the specific IgE test, were negative. Because if you have your parents or your sibling having drug allergy, you're not really inclined to have. It's not necessarily that you are also at risk, right? Because in many of the hypersensitivity, now I mentioned this right from the beginning, hypersensitivity reaction, you are going to get the what we call the risk for those food allergens and everything. But when it comes to the drugs, it can happen the first time round you ever took that drug. Usually we say for food and inhalants, you are sensitized. That means you have recurrent exposures to that allergen. So if you take, let's say, pistachio for the very first time, you're probably not going to get an allergic reaction. But maybe after the second time, maybe after the third time, maybe after the 10th time, then you might get an allergic reaction. Because along the way, your immune system is getting sensitized for some unknown reason. Yeah, we talk about genetic, we talk about environmental influences, making one more likely to be allergic, right? So you need sensitization. Now, the problem with drugs you can take it the first time and you can still get a hypersensitivity reaction, but it is not necessarily all IgE. That means the typical allergy, right? That means IgE mediated. It could be non-IgE mediated T cell. No, I don't want to get into it, but just to be mindful that even from the term hypersensitivity, that allergy, you can have a, let's say, a classic IgE mediated and everything else. So for drugs, that's the thing, right? That makes it tough. That's why I say it's a tough question to ask. How do we know that you're going to be allergic? You might take the Panadol the first time ever because you've never been ill. Suddenly got high fever, 38.5, 39, and you take the Panadol. And suddenly you go and you get hives, you have difficulty in breathing, and you have to go to the emergency. So, but usually we say that if it is something that occurs more or less after about 5 minutes of taking that allergen, then you will probably say, this probably is more anaphylaxis, right? Because sometimes you get a situation whereby you get a little bit of hives, very non-specific, a bit of rash even. And then the person suddenly say, I think I'm going to faint. And he's saying that within 30 seconds of having had an allergen, and this could be the COVID vaccine. It could be less likely to be an allergy. It could just be a fainting spell, a vasovagal reaction. So there are other things as well. So if you're going to get allergy, a severe life-threatening allergic reaction, we are also going to be aware of all other things that are going to be looking and presenting similar to your anaphylaxis. So that question is a difficult question to answer, to be honest. But if you have a family history, then you know that I have a potential anywhere from 15 to 80% chance, right? But it is mainly for the foodstuffs and everything else, not so much the drug. So which makes it even difficult, you see, because you ask your parents, I don't have any. Your mom and dad says no penicillin allergy, no drug allergy, no painkillers allergy, nothing, right? But yet you might get allergy. So it's not always easy just to rely on a family history. But that's one of the easiest thing to do, just a family history story.
Okay, so I think we're going to come to a close soon. Let's just wrap up. If Dr. Amir, could you just help wrap up for those who just joining the stream? They have kind of the same questions that have been going. I see looking at the comment section here, I'm always seeing a lot of medication allergy questions and stuff like that. Help us in brief, like a quick recap here, like the steps that we need to go through that will build assurance and confidence on taking the COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah, so once again, I'd like to thank the Star and you for having me. Right, I feel blessed to have this opportunity. Thank you very much. And I think I go back to the screening questions. Okay, so if you have a drug allergy, and because I want to make it simple, right? So you have drug allergy or injectable or oral, it doesn't matter now. And in particular, anaphylaxis. So now we look at a severe life-threatening allergic reaction. Okay, so you should be assessed. You are put in the group that needs further assessment for the COVID-19 vaccine, because that's what our poster is saying, what the flyer is saying, right? Anaphylaxis. Now, if you don't have anaphylaxis, now you are in the other group, which is safe to get the vaccine, and you do need the 30-minute observation. Now, of course, this ruling or this step is taken whether you have allergy or not anyway in the background. So you will still have that 30-minute observation. That's how it stands that it is. So one group, you have any form of anaphylaxis, have yourself assessed further, right? So you will not really go for the vaccine, and we will assess further and we'll see whether you are eligible for any form of vaccine. And hopefully you will be eligible for at least one type of vaccine. So which means that you are now helping the nation by getting yourself vaccinated, and hence getting towards that herd immunity that we want. So do not be afraid, okay, to get yourself vaccinated if you have allergies. It's just that you need to know the severity of your allergic reaction and the type of allergens that you're having that anaphylaxis, right? Once you're out of that group, that the rest should be okay to get the vaccine. And please do get yourself vaccinated. And if there's any further questions, I am, what I've shown from before. I'm contactable on Dr. Amir. Thanks, Joshua.
Let me just put it. Yep, I'm going to pull that up in case anyone has any questions in the future as well.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Dr. Amir at rzbp.my. Okay. So I hope I can help in a small way to every single one of you, but I will try to get out more information for further reading. In fact, to be honest, all those things are there, and I think we can fine tune a little bit with the things that we already have, with the tools that we have, right? The AI tools, so we can make it a nice experience, a pleasant experience for every single citizen of Malaysia.
Okay, so just probably one last one, because we're talking about getting assessed over here. Where do we go to get screened or assessed?
Okay, right now. Okay, now for the screening, I like to say it's more of assessment, right? Okay, the screening I already mentioned from the questions. We should get all that questionnaires sorted out, and you know which two groups you are in. Further assessment or no need further assessment, no requirement. Okay, we'll make it as simple, as easy, as pleasant, as smooth, full of confidence that you're going to get yourself vaccinated, or otherwise you're going to be in the small group that is not going to be getting the vaccine. Now, for the assessment, I did say it should probably be an allergist or someone who can connect to one. Fortunately, there are not many allergists in Malaysia, and I think it's probably high time we get this going, right? To get allergy, clinical immunology as a whole to be recognized, then there will be more allergies, right? Clinical allergies around in Malaysia. So at this point of time, I'm going to say that it's going to be, where I am. But because we want to do the assessment through a blood test, where it will be much safer, we are not doing any skin prick test or intradermal test. That I really, really hoped we will get that going before phase 2 starts. So I'm going to just keep on communicating with all the the person in charge, the stakeholders, that this is a necessity. So we get the test going, we get the specialty going. But yes, just communicate with me, and then we can see where you're going to go from there on.
All right, and just as like a final note, everyone here again, if you're wondering, if you're still wondering whether you're about your your allergies and the COVID-19 vaccine, as Dr. Amir has said previously, you have to figure out your category here. Is it under anaphylaxis? Is there going to be any anaphylactic reactions towards certain drugs or medication? And then from there, in a very simple term, get an assessment from that point. Is that accurate, Dr. Amir?
That will be fine. That will be fine. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the time we have for this Q&A session. Dr. Amir, thank you once again for spending the time to provide a better understanding on the topic. And for the viewers, thanks for watching. If you'd like to stay updated on the news or future live sessions, click the like button on the Star Facebook page and subscribe to the Star Online YouTube channel. Once again, I'm your host, Joshua Lim, and I want to wish you all a very good night. Stay safe and stay informed. Dr. Amir, have a good night as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Stay safe, everybody. Stay safe.
See ya. Bye.